Bond, can you come into the office?
G'day, mate. How you going, Em? It's good to see ya.
Bond, you sound a little bit different.
Do I? It's the same old me. How you going, Em? Good to see ya.
We've got a mission for you, James, if you'll take it.
Oh, mate, I'm up for anything, you know what I'm saying? Crikey.
You sound very different, mate. What's going on?
Oh, you know, I just got up this morning, had my eggs, had my damper, and I came in.
That says you're not the real James Bond. Get out of here.
Oh, crikey. This never happened to the other fella. Roleplay.
Yes?
So, Nathan.
Yes?
I've been thinking, as a child, did you ever partake in role-playing scenarios where you pretended you were a character of sorts and ran around and...
yeah, for sure. Oh, when you said the word roleplay, I didn't know what direction you were heading, so I'm...
that's why I started the episode with that word, to keep people guessing, to keep the tension high, to be like, oh, yeah, you had a very concerned look on your face, I gotta say.
I'd be like, ooh, this is an interesting direction we're taking the podcast now. Yeah, 100%. Like embarrassingly, actually, I was running around quite a lot as a kid, pretending to be people I weren't. Did you do this? This is the funny thing. Did you do this in private, or did you do this very publicly at school as well?
Oh dear, dude, I did both.
I know.
I was one of those kids. I would be at home by myself or with the siblings, and I just start, playing. And then, that's a very private scenario. It's no one sees you. And then I'd go to school, go to the middle of the playground and frickin' run around like an idiot.
Yeah.
Pretending I had a lightsaber or something and, doing all this crazy shit and, running through the playground, where kids are, on the flying fox or, on the monkey bars, and I'm just running through,
Oh, yeah, it's...
And just being a complete moron, by social standards, but, there's no rule set. That I remember the first time that I realized that it was kind of not the social norm.
Yeah.
Was when... Well, you kind of deep down, I think but one of the...
still do it anyway.
One of the... Some kid came up to me, at the start of one lunchtime and was like, oh... And verbatim, this guy says to me, oh, are you going to just spend the lunchtime being Jar Jar Binks again? And I was...
And you said really, yes.
And I was like, Misa Jar Jar Binks.
And you just whack him and then run away. I remember doing that a fair bit too. And you think it's embarrassing, but I remember convincing other kids to do it with me, which made it less embarrassing.
Yeah, I was the same, man. In the early years, as I got older, it was a bit more difficult to do.
When you're 16, it's a little bit harder to convince them, isn't it?
Dude, when you're 21, it's people like Brenton, come on, we gotta go to uni, and it's Mr. Jar Jar Binks!
It's Brenton, we're at Woolworths right now, please. And you're nah. I remember on the year 3, year 4 playground, I remember convincing a couple other friends in our cohort that we were all wizards at Harry Potter. We were all students of Hogwarts, and we all found sticks one lunchtime. I remember us all standing around the playground, and I was telling them, I was teaching them spells, because I'm okay guys, you they weren't that familiar with Harry Potter, so I'm okay, here's the names of some of the spells, this is what they do. Now what's going to happen is that we're all going to run in opposite directions, and then when I say Expelliarmus, we all just start running at each other and see who can knock down the other the first with spells.
Dude, I taught a bunch of these blokey guys that are now were the sporty kids.
Ah, okay.
When we got to
the ones that we were not.
I took them outside and I started teaching them this dance. And it was this monkey dance because I was envisioning to get everyone to do the opening of The Lion King.
Oh my god, really? This is your grand vision, as child Brenton.
Dude, I was gonna go around to all of the kids in the grade and get sections of them to be these different animals and stuff.
Okay.
And do the Lion King opening. And I only got as far as the monkeys, but
you got
I
the
spent
monkeys,
a whole lunchtime and I taught them how to do this. I don't know why they agreed to be there and do it. It was just what, and also on the other hand, why did they agree? And where did this passion, where did this idea come from to, start monkeying about and, put the Lion King together? Weird, right? What a weird kid.
Weird, but I think all kids go through that at some stage where you have this grand vision of something. I knew when I was a kid, especially hearing songs on the radio, I would like envision like these like music videos that would accompany these songs and have these ideas of how the song should be represented.
Oh my god, yeah, I was exactly the same. Like I would. You'd be sitting in the car, and you'd be doing these ones. You'd be like, have the squinty eyes as they kind of half shut, and you're like,
you got the Clint
you're bopping
Eastwood
your head
glare.
along, and you're like, yeah, man, this would be sick. And your mum's looking at you like, oh fuck, I need to
Like,
take this kid to the
he's
doctor.
got to go back
like,
on the pills again. Like, but I remember going to school and like pitching these ideas for like, okay, I was like thinking, but we have to get everyone in the school to do this certain action, and then they have to do this certain dance, and we'll get a camera and it'll pan around here. And it was like to some like trashy pop song as well. But I remember as a child, you believed in the idea so much.
yeah.
So we should be bringing it back to adult life, I say.
Oh. Next episode. Welcome to Classic Movie Banter, the podcast where we review movies that are 20 years or older, hence making them classic. Am I right?
Oh, very, very
I'm Brenton,
classic.
and
I'm probably a better replacement for James Bond at this stage.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd agree. So yeah, welcome to episode 32.
Yeah. How was Christmas, Brenton? How was your holiday?
Bro, it was a good time.
It was a
great time, actually.
It was a good time?
Yeah, it was I went everywhere. I was at, I spent some time with my family, spent some time with the girlfriend's family.
Oh, very exciting. Was that nervous for you? Like, was it a very formal setting where you had to sit down and like, the father said, "Now listen here, son, you're gonna." Was it basically like It's a Wonderful Life? Because like you're gonna make my daughter proud, like.
Or was it like on Her Majesty's Secret Service?
Oh my god, was it like
which
that?
Which one is
father?
it like? Oh my god.
Yeah.
So if you haven't realized already from the opening gag or Nathan's hinting comments. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, this is a
It's a Bond episode.
month. So
we're back.
The second one.
It's so funny because like last week you and I were like, who's the next Bond? Is it Timothy Dalton? Is it Roger Moore? And we were both wrong because we forgot.
So wrong.
We forgot.
From memory, we were right about the film, but not the actor playing James Bond
because he only did the one.
To be fair enough, he only did the one. But yeah, let's get into this. Nathan, do you have a question for me?
I do have a question for you. One week I'm going to ask you something that's not pitch me this movie just to fuck you up, but I'm not going to do it this week.
No, please don't.
Brett, can you please pitch me On Her Majesty's Secret Service?
Everyone loves James Bond. It's a great time. We're in the 60s. It's the late 60s.
I can see you
it's
just
been
like
a hell of a decade.
I can see you in a Hollywood executive office, just like walking in, your arms flailing, being like, "Everyone loves James Bond." That's
yeah. Everyone loves James Bond. It's the late 60s. Sean Connery's out. What could go wrong?
He's old news.
Let's cast this young model guy, and who's Australian, and make a Bond movie. And it's like, yeah, it's not a good idea. Like, Bond's a pretty good time, eh? So then, so they make this movie, and in this film, James Bond is back? Question mark.
Yeah, question mark. Potentially.
And he is on a mission,
isn't he?
As usual, to find the leader of Spectre, and to do that, he kind of goes undercover and infiltrates kind of like this kind of gang, and the leader of this gang wants James Bond to marry his daughter, and for reasons. And
that's a very good point.
And so him and the gangster's daughter start going to find the leader of Spectre in Switzerland, and that's about it.
Brendan, that's probably your best pitch yet. You've done a good job, man. That's it in a nutshell. Like,
that was kind of intentional, kind of the like grasping at straws of what the fuck is going on, because I'm ripping the Band-Aid off. What the fuck is this movie? Like, seriously, what the fuck is this film?
It's bonkers, isn't it?
What the hell is going on? I was so bored. I was so bored, and it made no sense. Diana Rigg was in it, young Diana Rigg, and she was gonna commit suicide in the first scene, and then And then there was this weird beach scene, and there's weird homages to kind of other films, and it's a bit meta at the same time. It acknowledges that it's a bit shit, and that and then you have Bond, who's played by what's his fucking name?
George Lazenby.
What's his name? George Lazenby. I went to see Lazare, and I was like, that's not it. George Lazenby. He's like literally has this strange, like not a bad voice.
Yeah,
but. Too Australian, let's be honest. Like he has he's got a very broad English accent. It is bizarre.
It's like, they just got this guy. It's like, because Connery didn't want to do it. He very publicly hated it by this point. And the man that they chose, he just looks so bored the whole film. And it's funny because like you and I said the same thing about Connery when he was around, but compared to Connery, he looks even more bored.
No, well, I think Connery, was actually acting. This guy just looks like...
He's just like...
He's got, like, no emotional resonance at all. Like, no, like, character, so to speak. He just kind of rocks up and is like, I guess he's hitting his marks and is then just being like, oh. I honestly think George Lazenby isn't a human being and is actually
what
a
is he
robot
then?
in disguise. He's a robot in disguise. He's the Terminator.
Maybe this is like some weird Terminator prequel, like.
Dude, this is actually the first Terminator film. That should be the pitch.
This is actually the first Terminator. Like, this is where James Cameron got it from.
This is the T-50 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like I would love to see that. I'd love it if like James Bond just suddenly cracked halfway through the movie. They're like in the middle of the snowfields, and then suddenly he just like whips out like a space gun, and he just starts like shooting shot. Like,
yeah, dude, and like his face kind of like peels back, and you see the red eyes of the Terminator.
He's got he's got like an Australian flag tattooed underneath, like.
He's got like board shorts on. He like rips off his shoot pants and like.
Oh, that'd be amazing! He rips off the suit. He's in like boardies and thongs, and in the middle of the snow.
And he's all like, "I am back."
Like he is Australian. Like he says very Australian things. Like it is weirdly meta. Like I found it so random at the start. He's like, this never happened to the other fella. As he's like looking at the camera and then jumps into the credits. I'm like, this doesn't feel very James Bond. But like,
doesn't feel right. The whole film doesn't feel right.
But like, to be honest with you, Brenton, like I initially. Like, because when I first finished watching this film, I was like, this is, like when I was going through it, I'm like, this is really all over the place. But by the end of it, I kind of fell in love with it. I feel like I got Stockholm Syndrome with it.
Yeah, me not so much. I was too bored to give a shit, to be honest. If I'm being brutally honest. And it got me thinking.
You're thinking, Brenton.
Like, about Bond in general.
Okay.
I gotta say, kudos to all the Bond fans out there.
Yes.
I just don't get it. I'm sorry. I really don't get this franchise.
No.
And I want to get it. I want to get it because, I want to see some cool spy films starring this cool character, granted.
Yeah.
But there's just nothing about these films, really, that stand out in my mind as something that's spectacular. Some of the recent ones, yeah, sure. Like, I love Casino Royale, let's be honest. But I feel like I'm grasping at straws constantly with these films.
I understand it. There's some good things in this movie. Like it's not an outright mess. There's some things I loved. Like I love actually I'm trying to think. Okay, I love the scenery. I love like the exotic locations. Like Switzerland looks amazing in this, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It does. There's some great landscapes and
and by the way, I've been to Switzerland. I've been exactly where this movie was filmed.
Oh, you're kidding.
And it's because
awesome.
my aunt lives like an hour away from where this movie was shot. And so, like, it's funny because as I was watching this, it was weird seeing Switzerland in the 1960s because it has not changed a single bit. Like, if you see Switzerland in this film, if you go there in 2018, it looks identical. The trains, like the cabins, like everything. So it was actually kind of nice to see that
That's
somewhere
incredible.
hasn't changed. Yeah. And skiing's beautiful. Somewhere, yeah.
I was gonna say somewhere stuck in time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's those places on Earth that just like haven't changed, and you're just like. I'm a man out of time, when you're in those places. Yeah.
But in saying that, this film is like, it's very, very 60s, isn't it? Like the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, but kind of in a fun way. Like, I kind of like, I love the soundtrack. Like, it's like cool guitar kind of thing. I thought the music was outstanding in this.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I can see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I wasn't that impressed by the score, to be honest. Yeah,
it was actually the theme I mostly loved. It was like the same thing with You Only Live Twice.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. I think the theme's very good. I just think like the
it's like that great like orchestral like you know.
Yeah, it had a punch to it. You know what I mean?
Didn't it? So did James Bond. He punched a fair bit, didn't he?
And speaking of punching, see that segue there?
Yeah.
Literally see it. Look, that guy's riding it. What the
wow!
fuck? Someone get him.
Good on him.
Yeah,
hope he doesn't go off a cliff.
Yeah. Segue from the punch. What is with the? This is also so. It's the first Terminator movie, and I also think it's the first. I also think it's the first Bourne film. Some of the action scenes in this film are like the beginnings of shaky cam and like fast editing in fistfights that kind of make you like if you're not already saying what the fuck in this film, when a fistfight happens, you're definitely then going what the fuck? Like or it's just Sorry, I'm saying fuck a lot in this episode.
No, it's okay,
but
man.
I feel like it's I feel it's warranted, you know.
We're in adult territory. We're with James Bond himself. It's like, I agree, this film's really weirdly edited together. Like, I know we don't talk about the editing, but like, there's like weird kind of like hard cuts in the middle of the fight scenes. Like, where it's like it'll zoom in and then it feels like there's frames missing to the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels, if you know what it feels like, it feels like a comic book. It feels like Ang Lee's Hulk, where there's just like weird kind of stills, and then like he'll punch, and then it'll be like pow, like it does feel almost comic booky. I don't know, that's what I thought.
Can we do a quick tangent on Ang Lee's Hulk?
If you want, man, go for it.
Can we just acknowledge that movie exists and then move on with our lives? Like,
yeah, you know what? I'm glad it exists. Though also Ang Lee, like Academy Award winner Ang Lee, like made that thing.
It's bizarre, that movie. Like Eric Bana as
Australia's own Eric Bana.
Oh man,
there's
Aussies,
a theme going on here, Brenton.
Yeah, this is Aussies taking beloved characters, I guess,
and running them into the ground.
Man, I think is Jennifer Connelly like the female love interest in that film as well.
Like she's
God. Man,
I don't know. Like it's. I was so bored when I watched it as a child, and like, it's just, I don't know. It's very ambitious as well to literally have comic book panels in the film. Like, like you understand the thinking, but it just doesn't work, does it?
It doesn't work at all. And also the Hulk himself just looks terrible.
Oh, it's so bad.
But in the best of ways, it's kind of hilarious. Like the scene where he breaks out of like his tub, like when he's in like the blue goo tub. Is cinematic gold and is worth watching alone. Just look it up on YouTube and
it's great. It's
have
great.
a good time.
I think it's like 2003 that came out, so I think it's a couple years off from us covering it. But
I was gonna say 2004, but yeah, even if it was out, you know, I don't know if we could.
We could do a whole episode on it. Like
we could do a series. We could do 3 episodes just on Ang Lee's Hulk. Like,
you're right. We should just
and really dissect it.
I would love to. I think it's great. Like, you know, like, especially the special effects. I don't think it holds up well next to Spellbound, you know? Like, I think even Spellbound has better special effects in it. Yeah. Speaking of which, would it be so funny if the skiing from Spellbound intercut with, like, the skiing in this film?
It would be amazing, Nathan. Like, if you're just watching Spellbound, and then in the background you kind of see this facility, like, on the mountainside, and you see
there's
helicopters kind of flying in the background.
That'd be amazing.
Oh, man, speaking of which, there's some interesting action sequences in Switzerland.
Oh, yeah.
I will give this film that. There is,
dude, that skiing scene is remarkable.
It is. The skiing scene, the helicopters
used,
I thought was some
scene.
great use of helicopters.
Great use,
like,
yeah. I love the guy on the helicopter. They're like, "Oh, are you one of the good guys?" He's like, "Nah." He's like, "What are you guys doing? Get the fuck out!" And then they're like, and then Blofeld's just like, "Oh, is he with us?" And they're like, "Oh, who cares?" And he's like, Like, I love the way he talks out of it.
So on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Interesting title, I gotta say. We're not doing title talk, but it's very apparent in this film that is the title of the movie.
Let's just do title talk right now. Let's just
Sure. I think it's a shit title, let's be honest.
Because it's said a couple times in the movie. It's like You Only Live Twice.
But that's what I mean. Like, but You Only Live Twice. It was like the theme was coming
thematic,
through in the scene. Yeah, it was like it was actually a scene about, you know, characters, and there was a theme coming through. Whereas this, it's just like George kind of line drops it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then has a weird, wet meta moment, and then you're like...
He looks at a portrait of Queen Elizabeth on the wall, and it's like weirdly erotic. Like, you're like, what are you doing there, buddy?
I just don't get the title. I think it's confusing, and
it's like, yeah, it's funny because that's not the only James Bond title. Did you notice at one point when they're looking at the crest, he says the world is not enough? Yeah. I was like, yeah. I was like, there you go. There's another great movie. All coming together, Brenton. But like, yeah, I agree.
Oh, so
what would you call this movie then? Like, certainly not On Your Majesty's Secret Service.
Can we just call it Switzerland?
Okay, 007 in Switzerland, just
yeah, just Switzerland. Like no link to James Bond.
You know what I would call it actually? I'd call it the Angels of Death after those ladies that are like in the thing. Yeah,
that's not a bad title.
Because I think they're called the Angels of Death, like the 12 Angels of Death or whatever. Fuck, this movie's got a weird plot, hasn't it? Like a really bonkers plot.
It's hard to describe like what exactly is going on. It's
so
all over the place.
confused watching this film. It took me ages to work out what the hell was going on.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why and I just didn't have the investment in this film to really dig deep, I guess, and discover like what the hell was actually going on. No. Which I guess is a failure on the film's part. But
I feel like the main plot is more about James and Diana Rigg as like
yes.
Yeah.
But like, and everything else is kind of an afterthought with like Spectre and what's kind of going on there. But
it doesn't. Also, like Blofeld's played by a different actor because I thought it wasn't Blofeld because there's a different guy from.
Same.
Yeah.
I was very confused.
But then he's like, no, you cut your earlobes off, and you're like, what? Like it wasn't until you saw the cat that you realized it was actually him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very weird. It was a very, very weird movie. Like I don't know. It's I don't know. It's like there's things I like about it. I actually did like the relationship of the two by the end. Like I thought like James Bond and Diana Rigg had genuine chemistry. But like
I did too. But we'll talk about more of that in spoilers, nothing but spoilers.
Yeah. So
which we'll get into after we rate the film.
Let's rate the film then, because I'm keen to rip this band-aid off, Brenton. I've got some wounds of my own I need to expose.
Mine are always exposed. I'm just going to add it to the pile. Sally, when you're ready, just come in here and just straighten that pile. It's looking a bit crooked. Yep. Thanks, Sally. No, the SWAT team doesn't need to come in as well. Just out you go. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to say give this film on
Thursday
Her Majesty's
night. Would you watch this?
No, I wouldn't. I would give this a thumbs down. Yeah,
it's funny because that's
Bondi.
2 Bond films now that like you've both turned down. Like, is this okay? Tell you what, is this better than You Only Live Twice?
No, it's not. It's not.
See, I preferred it to You Only Live Twice. Frankly, I thought I thought. That,
okay. Here's the sell. If you've got those 2 films and you're sitting down to watch one of them on a Thursday night,
you got a gun to your head.
Just ask yourself this simple question. It's like, do I want to watch a film where it's not apparent what is going on until we're 50 minutes into the runtime?
Yes.
And then just ask yourself that question and answer it. And if you do want to watch a film where like you don't understand what's going on until you're 50 minutes into the runtime, man, On Her Majesty's, I can't even say this title, it's so bad. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the Bond film for you.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the action's better than You Only Live Twice. I feel like there's equally as dumb moments in this one. I think Connery is a better Bond than Lazenby. So
yes. Yes.
It still has the problems of the old Bond films. It's still deeply misogynistic. It's like it's still really outdated. There's not really a story worth telling in this movie. But I'm actually going to give it a thumbs up. I really am going to recommend it. I'm going to stick by it because I think the skiing scene is so fucking good, especially for the 60s. Like some of the real life action stunts that they do in this thing is phenomenal. And for that alone, I'm going to say you have to watch this movie. At least watch the YouTube clips of this movie.
Okay, well then here's my question. Is it worth watching the whole film or is it worth watching just the YouTube clips? Because I'd say just watch the YouTube clips.
I would watch the whole film simply for Diana Rigg. Because I think she's probably because I've seen a little bit more Bond, and I think out of all the Bond girls, she's probably the best besides Vesper, maybe. But also Vesper's a lot like her from Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Isn't it so weird? Did you realize it was Diana Rigg like going throughout this film?
Yeah, I did straight away. Yeah.
It wasn't until the end credits came up that I recognized it was Diana Rigg, and I'm like, holy shit, Lady Olenna! I can so see that now.
I want her to know it was me. It was me in the Bond film back in the day.
I would love it. She is, but she's so like Lady Olenna in this film as well, isn't she?
Oh, she's great. Yeah. Wonderful actress, yeah.
Yeah.
What was her name? Tracy...
She has like 10 different
Tracy.
names. She has so many different names in this movie. She just keeps bouncing back and forth between.
Yeah, and Bond's all like, "Hey, Tracy, get over here.
Oi, Trace. Oi, Trace, you want to go on some slopes? Here, what do you... I'll show you my mountain slopes. Like,
oh, jeez.
Let's spoil
George,
this thing.
put it away, mate.
Oh.
So let's rip off the other Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Ugh,
we got bullet wounds in this movie, so...
Oh, yeah.
So, Brett,
let's get into some spoilers, yeah.
Yeah.
So the opening scene.
Oh my
God.
God.
Opening scene. Bond in his telescope. He spots a woman that's running into the ocean.
What a coincidence!
I was very confused, and I like the last thing I thought was that she was trying to commit suicide. If I'm being honest, but it turns out she was.
Yeah,
and
I didn't
Bond
get that at all.
And Bond kind of just grabs her around the waist, strangely, and then throws her, I guess, onto the beach. And then we get a fist fight with some random goons that I don't know why they're there. Maybe they're her bodyguards. I don't know. And then there's like a big fishing hook that's used. And then we get some weird James Bond cutting as we're fist fighting.
Yeah.
And then Diana Rigg just runs and jumps in her car and drives off. And then Bond turns to the camera and says, "This never happened to the other fella."
It's such a weird way of opening a film, especially for a new Bond as well. Like I get that 1960s audiences may have been confused why there was a new actor, but I feel like the marketing would have taken care of it, not the actual movie. Could you imagine if like an Iron Man 2, Brenton, like you know how they replaced they had Don Cheadle replace the other guy.
Yeah.
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard. Yeah.
Could you imagine if suddenly like Don Cheadle walks into that Congress meeting where they're all questioning Tony Stark, and Tony Stark's turns to War Machine. He's like, "Oh, where have you been?" And then like Don Cheadle turns to the camera. He's like, "Oh, this never happened to the other fella." like the movie doesn't need to do that. It's the marketing department's job to let us know that stuff.
I still love that it's in the film. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, same. Like it makes the film funnier for it.
Let's talk about Tracy's father figure.
Yeah,
dude.
He's like, you know what really made me weird about him? He meets James for like 5 seconds, and then he immediately wants him to marry his daughter, like with no motivation whatsoever. Do you know why he did that? Did I miss something?
I think it was because James had saved his daughter on a couple of occasions.
Oh, does that warrant marriage? Like, I feel like...
Hey man, in some cultures maybe,
I
don't know.
All the Bondi lifeguards, they've got all these engagements like every day, just like... they drag some body out of the water, like their father's just with them on a holiday.
Oh, who's that? Your wife? How'd you meet? Oh, well, her father sold her to me after I kind of, saved her life when she was drowning this one time. That's horrible.
Yeah.
I know, right?
He's very archaic. Like when they get married and he says like, "Oh, you got to obey your wife. No, you got to obey your husband." Remember he says that to her?
Yeah.
I'm like, who is this guy? Like he's so outdated. And like also what I found weird about him is that when he walks in, he knows what James likes to drink. He walks into the room.
Yes.
I'm like, how do you know that?
And I was like, oh, have we been doing reconnaissance? But it's never really brought up. It's just kind of
no. It's like it's weird.
It's almost like. It's like George couldn't say his own line, so they just gave it to someone else.
Oh my God, Brenton, you're probably right. Like he probably tried to say it, and then he's like, "Oh, it's shaken, not stirred." And then the guy's like,
they're like,
"Ooh.
This isn't working."
Yeah, no, thank you, George, but we'll have the other guy say it. Like, yeah, I found that so funny. You know what I do love about this movie? I love how realist it is. Like, there's not that many gadgets or anything like that cuckoo about it. Like, at least. Like it's. I think, You go.
Can I continue the Bond tangent for just a moment?
I'll go for it, man.
I've never seen a Bond film where they actually legitimately have a cool tool or a cool gadget.
That's true. Yeah. There's one.
I've
one that like Pierce
I find
Brosnan
them all pretty
does.
bare bones.
Yeah, like I guess because they were futuristic back then. There's one where like Pierce Brosnan's car can turn invisible. I remember that's one of them. Yeah, he's got. Oh wait, no. You got his like suction cups in like You Only Live Twice. Everybody's like climbing the wall and like.
Yeah,
I thought we were going to get one. I thought we were going to get one this movie. You know when he has the watch and he pulls the string, at one point.
Yeah, at the start. Yeah.
I thought that was gonna like explode on him and that he would have like been killed then and there. Like, but yeah, it's true. I was kind of hoping for some wacky stuff, but you never really see it. It's just guns.
But it's even like in the new films, it's always just like, oh yeah, here's this thing that can track you. And it's like, yeah, sick.
Yes,
here's a defibrillator. Oh, good. That's good.
A
That's
defibrillator.
good. I got
Whoa.
this.
Thanks, MI6.
What else is there? There's like, I don't know. I want there to be a cool Bond film that has like a Spy Kids level gadget.
Yeah.
That's like,
we just need Rodriguez to direct a James Bond movie.
Like he has his like bubble gum that's like, oh, what is the gum in Spy Kids that they use? And it's like,
doesn't he have like a mint in this movie though? Doesn't he have like a mint? So at one point they said this is like a mint that you can chew, or maybe I'm imagining things. Like Q does walk him through the gadgets at one point, but he's like, "You can't use any of this, James. Here's a gun.
Here's your gun.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, mate."
I like the hacker. I like when he hacks that. He has like when he hacks that thing. You know, he's like,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I love it how he gets this briefcase delivered to him by a fucking crane and no one notices it.
Dude, this is the next thing I want to talk about. Is the shot where you see the crane kind of come across to the building, and then James just pops into frame on the balcony and kind of just tosses the suitcase in there and walks back inside. And then we follow the crane with the suitcase as it moves away from the building, and I was just gobsmacked. Oh. I was like, what the fuck am I watching?
Because also they really did that.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
I know, yeah.
And it makes no sense. Like, it's not sneaky at all. Like, you think everyone would notice a fucking crane just suddenly being right next to this balcony.
Do you have anything you want to talk about in the Switzerland section?
Oh, I got a fair bit I can talk about in Switzerland. It's also because I've been there. I thought it was great. I loved the set design. I thought the set design of the actual place was quite amazing. But
yeah.
And I love the reveal of when he like goes up to have dinner and the camera pans and there's like 12 beautiful international women just all saying hello James like as he walks on in.
And then like George doesn't even have a reaction. He's just kind of like, I turned up to set today. Like
exactly, yeah. Like he's so nonchalant about it. But I love how like, you know, he gets to meet all them and that kind of stuff. And then he ends up hitting on one of them, like the British chick, and he sleeps with her and that kind of stuff. But then he goes to see another girl and he repeats the same lines to that other girl. You know, he just quotes himself. I want to think that he did that with literally all 12 girls, but he just had it all cut out of the movie. Like by the time he gets back, he's like, it's like 4 a.m. He's had sex with like a dozen women. He's like, oh, I'm just exhausted. Like,
I need to lie down.
Yeah, but you know what's so weird? So this movie has stuff like that where James is like picking up all these different girls, but then the movie's trying to like ship this whole like romantic plot with like James and Diana Rigg, and it's like he's cheated on her so many times in this movie, and yet we're trying to be invested with this couple. Did you find that weird?
I mean, I find that weird in a lot of Bond films, actually. Like, I think you kind of... There's the main Bond girl that's like, oh, let's... And I think this is, like, the most apparent case, to be fair. But, yeah, I think it's a problem with a lot of Bond films, that you see these films where basically, like, there's a romantic element with one of the characters, and then you're like, well, the fact that James has just slept with everyone... it kind of undermines this relationship.
It really
you know
does,
what I mean?
doesn't it? Like, it's bonkers. Like, I don't know, I found it so disrespectful, but like, I don't know. And they're just so, also how the women are so passive that they just get hypnotized in this movie. Like, fuck, this has got such a weird plot. Like, what's Blofeld trying to do? He's trying to like... What's his plan? It's like...
It's like to brainwash all these women, basically.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like to...
He's trying to,
I don't know.
He's trying to, because like one chick's allergic to like squirrels or something like that, and like she's like, and he's trying to like have everyone in the world be allergic to stuff, and he's like got medicine hidden in cosmetics. It's such like a weird angle to pitch the movie at.
I don't know. I was very confused.
Yeah, I was so confused. But thankfully, what distracted me from all that was just how beautiful it all was. Like I love like when they're all like eating dinner around this beautiful like. Did you want to go to Switzerland after watching this?
Yeah, dude. I was in the mood. That's the best thing I can say about this film.
Yeah, it's a
good
good
I wanted
ad
to
for
go to Switzerland.
But because I can't remember, did you only live twice? Did that make you want to go to Japan?
No.
No, but this movie does succeed in making you want to go to Switzerland.
If I'm being honest, yeah.
Yeah.
I think like and that's coming from someone though in regards to You Only Live Twice that like has seen a lot of films that have made me want to go to Japan.
Yeah.
And experience Japan. Whereas like You Only Live Twice made me be like, this is a Japan. Like I don't know. it was a strange experience.
It was a very strange experience, but I don't know. I just loved looking at this movie when it came to like the Swiss stuff. Although like I wanted to go there, but there was one part of it where like it felt very dangerous. Like there's a scene where they're all playing shuffleboard on like the top of the mountain, and there's like it like pans to like all these people standing around, and there's this one girl sitting on the edge of the railing. And like directly behind her is just this huge cliff, and I'm like, "What are you doing? This chick's just going to get knocked off in a second."
There was some interesting moments that would always make me question whether like it was intentional or not. You know what I mean?
Like, did you like the guy who? Oh no, you go.
Oh, I just mean like some moments in the film was that like by chance that happened? Such as like there's just moments like Bond's like sliding scene.
Oh my god, I loved it when he comes across the bridge and he's like a fucking penguin.
Yeah, dude.
He's just sliding across the ice in his belly.
I was just like, what is going on? Did he trip over and like?
I don't care. Like I hope he did. Like because we don't see him trip, we just see him coming on his belly, just shooting.
That's right.
Like, it's so funny. Like I just wanted like the March of the Penguin soundtrack just to suddenly play over top of that, and like. And it's just
and Morgan Freeman's voice just to sound through and be like, now is the time. Oh man,
it's great. I love that whole sequence. Like I love when they're going down the mountain and then one guy falls into the snow cleaner and you see his like blood and guts go everywhere, and then James is like, "You had a lot of guts." Like it's very James Bond, isn't it?
Oh, that's one of my favorite moments of the film. To be fair, that was one of the points where I had to pause it and like laughed out loud.
Oh, it was so good. But I think my favorite moment in that fight was when we see that one guy fall off a cliff, and it goes for like a minute.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like you see this like mannequin of this guy just like toppled down a Swiss cliff, just for like the shot goes for like 30 seconds.
You like see the full scope of like what the danger is, you know, what the risk is of this situation. And that was awesome. And you just kind of stay with it. You're like, wow, it's still going.
Yeah, because then that second guy comes and he's like fighting Bond. And I think that shot made like the tension higher because you see how far that first guy fell. And you're like, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was genius. I thought that was an excellent shot. I love it also in that final fight where one guy has like a flamethrower. Like they've all got guns, but this one guy, you're like, where did he come from?
He just didn't get the memo. I'm not sure what happened there. Yeah.
He's from like a different James Bond movie. Like the actor just rocked up to the wrong set. And he's like, oh, guess I just got to stick with this.
And they were just like, well, why are you here? Just, why didn't you join in? Yeah.
But there's also another henchman who throws acid at James Bond and like hits the window and it melts it. I'm like, what's going on here? But like the rest of them are also disposable because they're all just in these orange jumpsuits. Like they all look identical, so like you can easily just kill them all off. They're like in superhero movies today, where it's just like the faceless army. It's like the equivalence of that.
Yeah. Can we talk about the final scene of this film?
Here we go. Yeah, because I did not see him getting married. I was completely surprised by that.
Yeah, I feel like when you said that, you know, Vesper and I always forget this woman's name.
Or Tessa, or whatever it is.
Tessa. Yeah. What is it?
Diana Rigg, we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Tracy.
That's it, Tracy.
Tracy, that's her name. It's very much the same thing where like Bond's kind of settling down and you're like, oh, what's this? Like, you know. And then once again, the rug is whipped out from under your feet and turns out she did.
I did not see that coming, not for like a million miles, but like...
No, neither, yeah.
Because I was surprised that James Bond got married. And it's actually really sad because there's a moment where Moneypenny's at the wedding as well. And like... And she looks heartbroken, and like she's just like, because she just had this like whole thing with James for so many films, and she was like, oh, I guess like
it's quite sad, isn't it? But at the same time, you're like, oh yeah, this is cool, this is different, and then
and you think they're going to be going away,
yeah, and then she's just brutally murdered in this drive-by shooting.
Yeah, and it's like, which is a little bit funny as well, because it kind of just cuts to like Blofeld, who's got like this like weird neck brace in the car.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
But then we see James literally like lose his mind, like on the spot of like her dead corpse. It was bizarre. And then he picks her up and he starts like kissing her, I guess. Yeah. And kissing her corpse, and you're just like, well, this is an interesting way to finish a film. But good thing we're not dwelling on this, I guess, and we're just moving on.
I've actually got a fun fact. I've got a fun fact about that scene. The reason he breaks down, so Peter, the guy who was directing this movie, George Lazenby couldn't act for shit, so like he kept on failing the scene. So what the director did is that he just kept on shooting till really, really late in the afternoon until eventually George Lazenby just broke down because he just wanted to go home because he was so tired of shooting the scene. And so, like, he's actually really crying in that scene because he just wants to go home.
Because he wants to go home.
And the director's like, this is how we're going to get the emotion out of him. And Diana Rigg was just like, oh, for fuck's sake, just like, oh, it was great.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And she dies. Like, she's dead. She gone. Like,
I was so surprised.
A whole film.
Because, like,
based on, like, these two characters and their relationship. Yeah. And she's gone.
I thought it was a really emotional punch. I actually really loved that moment because I was surprised by it.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
You know what I wish? I wish they kept the
Ugh.
dog that James Bond finds at the end of that bobsled fight.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Was that Beethoven, by
and-
the way? That dog looks identical to the Beethoven dog. Have you seen those movies?
Yeah, dude. He does. Maybe there's a lineage there. I
Yeah,
don't
maybe
know.
this crosses over with the Beethoven movies. But I thought, like, when he finished that bobsled flight, he would have just, like, adopted the dog and suddenly he's at the wedding now. Like,
Oh, you're my boy. Bond number 2. I don't know. What would James Bond call his dog?
James Dog. Or, like, 00 Paws. Or... or You Only Bark Twice. Like... I'm sure there's some great James Bond dog names out there. Tweet at us, listeners. Let us know your James
know.
Bond dog names.
Nathan, I've got a question.
What's your question, buddy?
How did they make this movie? How did they make this movie? Yeah.
That's a good question to ask. You tell you what, of all the bloody facts we've got for movies, there's some fun ones in this.
There is, yeah. I might take us away.
Go for it, man.
George Lazenby broke his arm during the making of this film.
Really? Oh, how?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was on a skiing scene.
Okay.
That during one of the shooting of one of the stunt scenes, Lazenby broke his arm, thereby delaying the filming of many of his later scenes.
Oh.
So when Bond is taken to Blofeld's lab, Lazenby's broken arm is in its cast, and it's hidden by his like suit coat, which was draped over his arm. Blofeld's guard removes it from him, as Lazenby was unable to like remove his coat because like his arm.
Oh my god! Wow. You must have hated it.
Yeah.
Then.
Oh, I don't think Lazenby was a popular guy.
No,
on set.
Everyone was saying like he was
yeah.
he was so like hard to work with because like he also like him and Diana Rigg, they did not get along during the filming of this. So one of the facts I found was that that they found each other okay, like they weren't enemies, but like he was just because he just kept on like not giving a shit about the movie, and she was like, this was one of her early roles, so like she was trying a lot more than him. There was one point where they were filming that love scene that they both have, and before they filmed it, Diana Rigg came up to George and she's like, oh, by the way, I'm having garlic for lunch. And so the whole time they did that scene, her breath stunk of garlic, and he's like, oh, thanks, Diana. Cheers.
Thanks, Diana.
Thanks, Diana.
Thanks for that, mate.
You're doing a good job.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you know the
that's
story about
great.
how they
Yeah.
chose Lazenby?
No, I haven't heard that.
Oh my god. Okay, the reason they found him, because obviously Connery left, and they're like, okay, Connery's no longer Bond, fuck, what are we gonna do? And, you know, they chose a bunch of different people they could have gone with, but they watched this Fry's chocolate cream commercial. It's this random commercial for chocolate that George Lazenby happens to star in. And they're like, oh, this random guy, one, he could be super cheap, but two, I reckon maybe he could pull it off. So they invited him to come in to do an audition, and the way he got it, Brenton, is that he did an audition with one of the stuntmen, and he was like going back and forth with the scene, and he accidentally punched him in the face.
Oh man.
And it was by complete accident, but Broccoli, the guy who produces all the movies, he was like, this guy can actually punch a guy, he actually looks quite tough, let's cast him as Bond because he can display aggression.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Whoa. Did you know, Nathan,
Yes.
that this is one of the most faithful adaptations of an Ian Fleming novel?
Is it really?
So virtually everything in the book occurs in the film, and it stays so close to the source material that it actually caused some continuity problems due to the different orders of the films.
Oh,
They're not, like,
really?
in order. Yeah.
Do you know some of those errors?
Yeah, for example, in this film, Bond and Blofeld seem to be meeting for the first time face to face. Despite having met face to face in the last film version, You Only Live Twice.
Yeah, because I was watching this, I noticed that. I was like, because we saw the direct prequel to this, and we're like, oh, they've already met. But then when they don't recognize, I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So yeah, that's why. Also, interestingly, I really like this. So this is Christopher Nolan's favorite Bond film.
Oh, is it?
And many references can be found in the movie Inception.
I was about to say, I could see Inception in this.
He said, what I liked about it, that we've tried to emulate in this film, is there's a tremendous balance in that movie of action and scale, and romanticism and tragedy and emotion.
I agree with Nolan. I think this movie, also, it'll be interesting to see in episode 40 when we look back on this. I think it's going to warm over time.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. I still think, it's just so bizarre and confusing that granted, I think that Switzerland section is pretty outstanding for the time.
You could almost do you reckon it could just open with the Switzerland and just have the whole movie set there?
I mean, it'd be pretty cool. Speaking of setting, this is the only James Bond film which is entirely set and filmed in Europe.
Oh wow, there you go.
Yeah,
good old Europe, proudly European, except for James Bond himself. He's not that European, is he? But man, this makes me really want to go to Europe now. I've been before, but man, it'd be good to go back to Switzerland.
Yeah, I'd be good to go to Switzerland for the first time. Maybe I'd take a tour. The On Her Majesty's Secret Service tour.
Dude, it'd be amazing to have lunch where that actual restaurant is. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you look around the Alps, it's remarkable. It's an awesome country. Definitely would recommend it.
Nathan?
Yes?
Let's look at this film's poster.
Let's look at it, buddy. We've got this is actually one of my favorite posters, to be honest with you. I think it's an improvement from the You Only Live Twice poster.
I agree. I think it's a very interesting poster for many reasons.
Do you love the slogan? Is this probably the best part about it?
No, for me the best part about it is actually Diana Rigg and George Lazenby on their skis. Kind of physically it doesn't make sense, the poses they're posing with, or that they're kind of on that angle. But isn't that just awesome? Isn't that hilarious? And then all the snow speeders and the henchmen in the orange with their rifles all pointed at them.
Yeah,
with a mighty explosion and a avalanche happening in the background. It's just there's a lot happening, and the slogan is a lot happening, but it kind of works. I don't know.
It does work. I love George Lazenby's expression on the poster, his face.
I know.
He's like,
what a cheeky bugger.
Oh, he's so cheeky.
He's like, ooh.
Oh, and I love Diana Rigg's just purple dress. She would be freezing cold if she ended up skiing in that. In the actual film, she's rugged up, but if she skied in that purple dress, she would be frostbitten immediately.
Yeah, she's her expression's so George is oh, I got her up here, and she's oh, I'm gonna lose my fingers from frostbite. Oh,
she's
fun
help
times.
me, help. Instead of the far up, far out, far more, it should just be help,
help! Exclamation mark. Me! Exclamation mark.
I'm Diana Rigg! Exclamation mark.
Yeah, I like that it's a landscape poster as well.
I like that with the British posters, they do the landscape shots. I think this is cool. I don't know. I'm a fan of it. I like the color. It feels very 60s. I don't know. It nails that retro aspect. It'd be cool. I think what I'd love though is if that square of the snow and the mountains just took up the whole poster, in the background.
I kind of like it the way it is.
You like it with that big white?
Yeah, I like it being on white. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we like this film's
poster. I'd love to see a poster today that's released that is inspired or influenced by posters of the 60s.
Yeah, because we're getting a trend with 80s posters. 80s posters are coming back, with Stranger Things and all that kind of stuff and all these derivative movies. But it's I'd love to see the old white posters come back, with the Rocky posters as well. Even the 70s, how they have those those white posters.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Rocky 2. Best poster we've reviewed on this podcast.
Great. After 32 eps, definitely the best poster.
Ooh. Halloween's up there for myself as well, but this one's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. So, should we pass it to the people, man?
Power to the people singing, yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes, it's given the score 80%, Brent, and 80% of people love this movie. So, yeah. So, Brenton, you're in the minority.
Ooh. I'm in the 20%. Yeah.
Yeah, top 20. But yeah, what are some people saying?
Dan Drucker. of the Chicago Reader.
Chicago.
He's a top critic.
Whoa.
Here's a rotten review. Director Peter Hunt manages to inject some life into this 1969 exercise with a wonderful ski chase, but otherwise, the film is a bore. Can't agree with you more, Don Draper.
Yeah.
You are a top critic, mate.
For a second, I thought you said Don Draper, and I was thinking of like Mad Men, just like
yeah,
just like
John Hamm. It's like
he would love this movie. Like,
yeah,
he'd be like, this is great. It would have come out at the same time as well. I don't know. He's probably right. Like, it is. I do need to acknowledge it is quite boring for a lot of moments, but like the good stuff, I feel make up for it. Really.
Yeah, I guess it's how much the good can outweigh the bad. For me, not so much, but for you, a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then let's see what Jeffrey M. Anderson's saying. He's from the San Francisco Examiner, Brenton. Look at that head. Look at that profile pic. He's a serious.
Oh, what
man.
a shot!
Oh,
Jeffrey, round of applause for Jeffrey, everyone. Well done.
He liked it. He gave it 4 out of 5, and he said, "Might have been the best Bond if not for the bland Lazenby." Do you reckon if Connery did this instead, it would have been better?
I think it would have made a big difference. Yeah.
Enough for you to really, really love this film?
I can't say.
No.
Because
We'll never know.
It hasn't happened, but I think there's a good chance I would like this film more if Connery was Bond. Yeah.
Yeah. This is what I would prefer. Edward R. He gave it 3.5 stars. He said, "I understand why fans do not like Lazenby's take on Bond. His acting is wooden, and it is not great. I recently rewatched Majesty and changed my opinion on it. I used to think it was an average film, but after my second viewing, Majesty is a great film and one of the best Bond films." He still gave it 3.5 stars, though.
Yeah. Understandable.
Maybe-
Like he mentioned some pretty some negatives, so I understand why taking 1.5 stars off.
Yeah.
Unlike Christian C, who took 3.5 stars off, with his 1.5 star review, he says, "Why would you leave us like that, Sean? Why?" On Her Majesty's Secret Service has some thrills, but Lazenby is a terrible Bond, and this also has one of the worst endings ever. Interesting ending, I thought, to be fair.
Yeah. It is, I don't know, I was very surprised that they killed her off in this one. I thought that they would have wanted to start the next movie and have her killed off then. Like, have this, like...
Yeah. I'd hate that more. I prefer it happen in this, but at the same time...
You want them to
given
Aliens
that she's
3 it, like...
Exactly. Given that she's such an integral character of this film, though, it's a shame to see that, like, all of her... Like, her character's just there to die at the end of it. You know what I mean?
It's kind of sad. And, like, James... Does James change that much by the end of it? Do you reckon she changes him?
Well, I have a theory that this... Let's go off the theory that, like, James Bond is, like, kind of like a code name.
Oh, this
And
fan theory. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So let's go off the fact that the only reason that Lazenby appears as Bond once is because he's driven insane by the death of Diana Rigg. And given that he's, like, talking to her corpse at the end, it's kind of a strange ending. So I'm just going to go with that.
Okay.
There you go. But not Christian C. We just reviewed Christian C's review. We're now going to talk about Grid Poet W, who gave it less than Christian C. He gave it 1 star.
Just getting worse and worse.
Only hipsters and critics like this movie. Boring to a fault.
I'm not a hipster. I'm not a critic.
I'm a hipster and a critic.
Yeah, I'm both. I'm hipster critic. I'm Nathan. Oh, I can see why hipsters would like this though. Like if you're in central Melbourne and you're going to walk into a movie night, this film's definitely going to be playing. If not just for like that trippy hypnosis scene where they're like, you know, when like they're in like when they finally get hypnotized and his voice comes over the top and it's like all rainbow colored. Like hipsters would like that.
Yeah. Hipsters would like that.
Yeah, we'll recommend it to the stoner hipsters who listen to this podcast. Shout out to you guys.
Shout out to you guys. We love you.
Yeah.
Justin S. 3 stars. New guy did fine. Don't see how he's a model. Blowfield is different. No scar. Started fine. Got boring with endless chases. Married girl. She gets killed in the end. 3 stars. Like,
I feel like
Thanks, Justin.
I feel like this is the guy, like, when you leave the cinema and you're all like kind of walking out at the same time, this guy just came to the movie by himself, but he's got no one to talk to, so he's just muttering this under his breath. Like,
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I do agree with him. I don't see how George Lazenby was a model at the time. Like, he looks, you know, he ain't exactly a Daniel Craig, is he?
He's got that, like, dimple in his chin, though. He's got that,
He has got that dimple.
Yeah, what is it called?
That's the moneymaker.
Is it a swell cleft or something? That's like the I don't know.
Oh
what
mate,
it's
this
called.
is out of my field. Like,
yeah, I see where they're coming from though.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like, you know, what was those old magazines Well, not. They were released pretty recently, actually, but they're like
that old
they're like
medium
those
magazines.
They're like those comedy cartoon magazines.
like Mad
with, like,
TV.
They've kind of got like the cartoon like guy with the big ears and the kind of freckled
I know exactly
face.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
He looks like that guy. What were they called?
Yeah, this is gonna bother me too. Was it Mad TV? Oh no, it wasn't. It was like
I'm who can find it first?
It was Mad TV. It was
name?
Mad. It was Mad Magazine.
It was. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. He does
George
look
like the guy
Lazenby
from
looks
Mad Magazine, doesn't
looks
he?
like the guy from Mad Magazine, yeah. For sure.
Maybe he
man.
is. Maybe that's where the inspiration came from. Like,
Maybe that was his modeling jobs, like beforehand. Like
oh
he
my
was
God.
just like, George, can you pose like this so we can draw your face?
the James Bond producers, they're just like going through the magazine. They're like, wait a minute, this is our guy. Do you ever read those magazines as a kid?
A little,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I had a good time with them. Borkerg on YouTube wrote, "This is one of the best Bond movies. No stupid gadgets, no stupid secret base, and overall it was quite realistic and believable." I think there is a stupid secret base in this movie.
I do too. You can't say there was no stupid secret base.
I think it's
Come
probably
on.
the secretest and the stupidest of all bases, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. Maybe that's a seasonal 7. Top 7 stupidest James Bond evil bases.
Yeah. You have to see at least 7 James Bond films before we get through that, Brenton.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a few years away then.
Yeah. Oh, we'll do it. We'll do it. And then finally, Kirshen Abbey Renth. How do you say that name?
Kishan Abe Retname. That's how I'm going to say it.
Okay.
Apologies to Kishan if we've slaughtered your name.
Yeah. Sorry.
No offense intended. They should have ended the movie at the wedding scene. Well, it depends on what ending you want, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it would have been happier, but then I was feeling really sad that Moneypenny didn't get anything. So I was like,
yeah.
what if Moneypenny was the one that ended up killing her? Like the car goes past and it ends up being her?
Oh my god, that would be like amazing, and then she's the villain for the next part.
Oh, see, that's smart. That's something that they should have done. That would have been amazing.
That's what Marvel would have done with the MCU, for sure.
But instead it's that weird, like, German woman who ends up shooting her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great, wasn't she?
Yeah. Fantastic, yeah. But yeah, we've passed the power to the people.
We have, and now the power's back to us, Brenton. We have it.
Oh, I've got the power. I have the power.
So yeah, I was surprised we had another 5-week month coming up so soon. I thought it was going to be ages before we did another Bond.
Same here, but interesting choice of Bond, I gotta say, but I'm glad we covered it.
Well, we only had the one choice with George. We couldn't have picked a different George film if we wanted.
True, but I'm still glad.
I'm still glad. I had a fun time with this, Brenton. I had a fun time with this movie.
I can't say it was fun, but I'm glad we talked about it.
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing the podcast. That puts a smile on my face.
So mate,
Yeah.
mate,
Yes.
are you going to send me on a mission or something, eh?
Very good, James. We have a new mission for you. We're having you go to another foreign country. This time, James, you're going to Australia.
Oh, I've never been there before in my life.
You'll have to try and blend in with the locals. Do you think you can do that, James?
Oh, I don't know about it, Em. I think you'd have to find somewhere closer to home, if you know what I'm saying.
I think what we're going to have to do is replace you with a different actor, potentially Timothy Dalton. Maybe he's more Australian.
Oh, really? Timothy? Yeah, he's a bit of a bloke, isn't he, eh?
Good morning, James.
Yeah, I reckon Timothy's a good... Oh, no!